Down to business. I got my wild cherry Diet Pepsi, and I got my blackjack gum here, and I got that feeling. Yeah, that familiar feeling that something rank is going down out there. Gutter.
In the gutter.
Gutter.
It's a nice house.
Gutter.
It's a nice house. There's gutter. It's a nice house. It's a nice house. It's a nice house.
Gutter.
It's a nice house.
Gutter.
In the gutter.
Gutter.
It's a nice house.
Gutter.
It's a nice house. There's gutter. It's a nice house. It's a nice house. It's a nice house.
Gutter.
It's a nice house.
The gutter.
You can't believe it. It's a Friday once again.
How can he close me up? On what ground?
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Everybody out at once.
A shining apple of a city, now slowly drowning beneath the murky water of a risen ocean. A labyrinth of brick, rust, and whispered sin called Lower Manhattan. These streets are slick with old magic and older grudges, and something even darker lurking beneath the waves. In places such as this, there are two types of men. Those that pull the brim of their hat down to shield their eyes from the horror, and those that look to vanquish it. Sometimes that darkness stems from the monster under the bed. But tonight, we will find that in the cool depths of the city surrendered to the tide. Because in this drowned burrow of ghosts and gutter water, evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. But tonight, it's going to swim. Welcome to the gutter. Everyone ends up here eventually. It is only a matter of time. How we doing tonight, JP?
Pretty good, man. You got some pretty eclectic music tastes, I've noticed.
Thank you. I take that as a compliment.
No, I was just thinking the other day about how music is to me what comics are to you.
Okay.
Like you know comics and you know them in and out, and you can recite artists and you can talk about theory. That's kind of like what music is to me. That's not to say that you don't know music, just as
Right.
you wouldn't say I don't know comics. It's just an interesting inverse.
Yeah, no, I would say my tastes are fairly eclectic. I'm just as likely to listen to bluegrass as I am jazz, blues, or, pop rock at any given time. I'm just not. I tell you, one thing that I've never, two things actually. I mean, number one, I hate disco, and I've never been big into rap. Like, it's just not my thing. So there you go. Let's check the chat, see what we've got. Join us where we dive in tonight. We've got Citizen Ronan. I'm here, and that fedora is entirely too small. Well, there you go, sir. And then Man-Child Protective Services, please refrain from giving comic nerd wedgies and swirlies. Thank you, Man-Child Protective Services. There you go. Thank you very much for joining us. But yeah, tonight we will be talking about Joe Golem, Occult Detective, specifically the first 3 issues that showed up. I've got them right here. Issue 1, issue 2, and issue 3. This makes up the Ratcatcher storyline. These issues were, oh, you know what? I never wrote down when they actually were released. Give me a moment, and I will pull that.
1930-72.
Oh, very good. 3072.
1930-72.
Yeah, this is volume 1 of Joe Golem. This was released in issue 1 was November of 2015. Issue 2 was December of 2015, and issue 3 was January of 2016 of the storyline that we'll be looking at. The second storyline that completed this 5-issue run was The Sunken Dead, which was issues 4, which was released in February, and issues 5, which was released in March. Yet again, then, that makes this a 5-issue run that was released in 5 consecutive months, JP. It is possible after all.
Wow. Is that a dig at me?
No, it's more of a dig at those that say it's not possible.
Oh, because I put out a comic a year.
Yeah. So if well, yeah, but I mean, a comic a year is even pretty respectable, and actually more than respectable in this space. If we take a look at the front matter, we're going to see some really interesting people attached to this, and I'd like to talk a little bit about it before we dive into the actual issue. First off, just to speak on if you're interested in going out and finding the issues themselves, this shockingly is dollar bin fare. You can usually dig them out of the dollar bin. The only issue with doing that is you're gonna have it's gonna take you a while to find a full complete set. If you're looking to buy them online, $2 to $3 an issue. For really high grade. They're not that collectible. If you want to get the whole storyline, there's a bunch of issues in the Joe Golem series in multiple volumes. The omnibus is around, gosh, I think it's 530 plus pages. You can score it for about $40 on Amazon. Highly recommend just grabbing the omnibus. And this is one of those ones where the floppies really don't have any value unless you're just a huge floppy fan, in which case, then go to town. But you're going to get a much better value, and it's going to be much easier just to buy that omnibus if you're interested and if you like what you see tonight. This is by Mike Mignola. We've talked about Mr. Mignola before multiple times. And did I not? Oh, there he is. There's Mr. Mignola. We've talked about his Hellboy before. We've reviewed 2 Hellboy stories that I can recall. It's also created and written by Christopher Golden. Christopher Golden is a very accomplished, regarded, and prolific novelist. Writes everything from horror novellas to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel novels tied to their respective shows. And if you're familiar with Hellboy or BRPD, the pacing of this is drastically different. Everything, the structure about this story and the series is drastically different than what you're normally going to see with a Hellboy or a BRPD that Mignola is primarily handling on his own. And we'll get into that a little bit when we delve into the story. But some of the talent on this is worth talking about even beyond the usual citations. Patrick Reynolds is the artist. His art is very, very similar to Mignola's. He has a little bit of an added flair that I think really hits the decay aspect of this storyline specifically. But he really has a great way of making his art look lived in. In that regard, he's a little bit like Guy Davis. His art seems to almost be etched into the page at times. Other times, not so much. But when you see it and it works, you can see what I'll be talking about tonight. And colors, of course, were by Dave Stewart. We've talked about Dave Stewart multiple times as well. Multiple Eisner Award winner, highly regarded, very, very long-standing good graces within the comic industry, especially with his time with Dark Horse and working with Mignola. And the guy I really am excited to talk about here is ironic. Man, it's the letterer. The letterer for the series was Clem Robbins. He's arguably one of the most respected, still working letterers in the business. He is referred to as the letterer of the Bronze Age. This guy lettered everything. He's pretty much Dark Horse's in-house letterer now, especially when it comes to Mignola's work. He does an absolutely crash bang-up job, and there's a couple instances in this series where we're going to show where I'd like to at least elucidate a little bit on where that depth of talent comes in and how he's really using the letters to do some really cool stuff within the context of storytelling. But I would be remiss if I did not talk about these covers. These covers are absolutely fantastic. They bring across everything that you want. right down from the trade dress. It brings across that almost pulp magazine look, like you're looking at from something from the 30s, but it's those painted covers that really sell it. The trade dress does a lot, but it's that art. And all of that art in all three of these issues that we're going to be talking about was done by this man, Dave Palumbo. Now, fantastic painter, but highly regarded. Does a lot of covers and a lot of stuff, but man, I can't talk. I love these covers. I think they're absolutely fantastic. What was your takeaway, JP?
Well, I don't think I have anything to say you haven't. Very striking, very pulpy, very kind of have it almost like it's almost like a tactile texture to them. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, I think that's it. Really fits well with Reynolds's art, where Reynolds has that kind of depth, and you get that sense of a lived-in world, which I hate that phrase because it's so overplayed with the Star Wars context. But it does apply here. And man, those covers just are exquisite in how they capture it. And again, let me show those. That's cover for issue 1, issue 2, and issue 3.
Also
And
looks like a trading card.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's obviously super inspired by Doc Savage, multiple Doc Savage, especially the Bama Doc Savage paintings from the 60s and the 70s. It's got that air about it, but just really good, really homaging a lot of great stuff there. But if we dive into the story a little bit, JP, what I'm going to do is I want to flip through a couple of pages, and then we can both kind of discuss. We're going to break this down not just by issue, but by segment, because there's one weird thing that's done in this that I think doesn't work the way they want it to. And I'd like your thoughts on it first. But as we dive into issue 1, right off the bat, we get a narration sequence that's in kind of a sepia tone. And that carries on for a couple pages as we're introduced to the primary narrator, I guess is kind of how you would describe him.
Yeah, like a little bit of omniscience.
Yeah, this is Simon Church, who we'll find out that Joe Golem works for. But intro, you're just getting, I think it's a really clean expositionary dump. I think it works. My problem with it is, and this is going to be an ongoing thing for pretty much issue 1 and then a little bit in issue 2, everything goes on for the expositionary story portion just about a page to 2 pages longer than it really needs to.
Yeah.
In your parlance, you would say this is overwriting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in moments where things are being repeated unnecessarily, and also it's kind of like farting in the pudding, in that it just kills any sense of like tone or vibe or letting the reader kind of appreciate sporadic moments in the story.
Yep, I would agree with that. Now, I'm going to focus again on these 4 pages just for a little bit. These are the first 4 pages. It's that expositionary narrative. We start off, and you're going to see this pattern repeat throughout the book. So I'm going to try to just talk about it now and not dwell on it too much later because it bothers me. We've got a 3-stack followed by a layout panel beneath it that they're kind of overlaid on, but we've got that white space. I always say this. I think if you just carried that color gradient all the way up, I think it changes the book completely.
Do you not think, though, that by getting rid of the barrier between the panels, that it can become like they'll just start blending into each other since they're all, sepia tone?
No, I think all you would do is just change the panel border from black to white, and then you have then you would have an outline, and it would retain that because it loses something. But that being said, that being pushed aside, because I talk about that all the time, we've got a stack with that reference image, and then we see a kind of an amalgam page where we've got a couple of panels that are, you can see that they're playing with a 9-panel grid and they're just off shifting things again to that, going way back, talking about beats and measures. That's what they're playing with here. It's all beats and measures of tone to go along with the dialogue. And the lettering here, it suggests a little bit of what I'm going to be talking about a little bit later in really well broken down narration bubbles. I think again, I do agree with your assessment that it's overwritten, but I like how the layout is done on the lettering. But we go from that back to a stacked look a little bit, and then back to kind of that 9-panel structure. Then we get the reveal, and then we switch to now we're in color, and now we're meeting Joe Golem, and then we're still using kind of that structured page. And then we've got another structured page. And then now you're going to see that continue where it's kind of a handoff. We're going to have structured pages that are in a 9-panel grid style format. And then we're going to go a couple of those in. And then we're always going to have an image where we get, or a page where we get a reference image. And then you're going to go through more. And that pattern fits throughout this whole book. So they stick with it, which is great, because sometimes you see books where they kind of start establishing a pattern and then they break it and it becomes a little chaotic. Here, there's a method to the madness. They stick with the progress. So with all that being said, JP, just for issue 1, and we've already kind of laid the groundwork a little bit for this, talk, if you wouldn't mind, can you give me a little bit more on why you think this is overwritten?
I will have to. I didn't really notice it until issue 2, so I might have to put a pin in it for now. Yeah, let me come back to that.
Okay, well, I mean, one of the things that I'm not going to say it bothered me, but it's the sense of imbalance. So if you look at this, we've got 2 people that are walking along a bridge, and a child comes up and cuts the purse and then jumps off the bridge into a boat, and the boat takes off.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're mostly doing visual storytelling, so it wouldn't really be apt here anyway.
And I'm fine with this. And then we go to here. Now, all of this, or at least the top 4 panels, are completely unnecessary. They don't add any they don't add any context to the story. The boat's getting away. I don't need to see the 2 people aren't able to follow them, because I'm going to assume they can't follow them because they're on a bridge and the thief is on a boat.
Yeah,
so I think you can cut that out.
Aren't they kind of providing a bit of context for the setting by explaining about like how the water rats?
Maybe, but I think you could even then, if you feel that that's important, I think you can settle that with maybe 1 panel with 2 pieces of dialogue.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be expanded out into 4 or 5 panels. And then conversely, we go from this, which is, I think, like you said, it's visual storytelling with a little bit of dialogue. I have no problems with it. Here, we're a little heavy, not terrible. I just think those top 4 aren't necessary. And then we get into this, and it doesn't feel organic. It feels forced with what they're saying and how they're saying it, and it's long-winded. And it's like you're riding away from a boat, or on a boat, and then something comes up and grabs the kid. I think they're just going to scream.
Yeah.
It seemed like a little bit, no, let's stop and have a conversation.
Yeah. We're getting away from the monster that just took him.
Right. It's repetitive. It goes back to that, in fact, do I still have it? Oh no, I got rid of it. I got rid of the redundancy. Oh no, I didn't. Haha, there it is. It's this. It's a little bit of this. And that always just irks me just a little bit. We've got South River Studios. Hojo has joined us. This looks like a well-paced story. Evening, fellas. Good to see you, Hojo. And everybody's saying hi to each other. So, but yeah, we've got Joe Golem tonight, Hojo. So, but yeah, so we get the back and forth. It's just a little bit much. It's not terrible yet. And then we switch, and now the only indication that we have of switching is we get a date. And we get a date, and we got Joe drifting off in a chair. And then now we're in Slovenia in like the 16th century.
Would you like to see a bit of a color palette change when you change scenes?
Yes, because we've already established, if we go back to our initial opening with Simon Church as the kind of omnipresent narrator, we're in a very sepia black and white tone, and then we switch, and now we're in kind of the washed out color palette of the city, but then there's no differential for when we jump into the past.
Do you think this should be in black and white?
I don't know. It bugs me that there's no shift, and I don't think it would bug me so much if there was at least a narration bubble that says like Slovenia, you know what I mean?
See, I disagree with you there. I think the fact that it's hundreds of years ago is pretty apparent.
Okay, and that's fair. But then we go through this arguable like flashback, reminiscence, whatever you want to call it. And we get a little bit of a suggestion of the lettering that I was talking about here. We get the bong, 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 and then it's building bong, bong as the bell's going. I liked that. That's a nice touch. It shows some deft lettering work. And here it's no different than we talked about 2 weeks ago on Blade Runner. When we have a moment of violence, we're choosing to use red. And that's fairly consistent throughout this whole thing. Here we're using it as a background color. To your point, would I want this in black and white? Even if it was in black and white, I still really like the red behind that panel to extenuate the violence.
Yeah, but then you're getting a little bit Sin City.
It is. It would be a little bit Sin City. And again, we get a secondary act of violence, so we get the red kind of orange palette there again. But again, you'll notice we're following with that reference image and then a kind of a stacked grid. We're following that same format as we float further. Now we get Joe waking back up. Now there is a little bit of a palette shift here, but I was not able to determine if it was just my eye playing tricks on me or if it actually is a palette shift. I think it's just my eye.
No, I think it is.
You think so?
Yeah, it got greener.
So, and then we're back into Joe's story, and here is where it gets a little old because we get 1, 2, 3 pages of just pure exposition before we get into the context of what Joe's investigating, and then we get more exposition.
When he finds the ugliest woman in the world.
Yeah, whose face is kind of lacks a little bit of consistency. I will agree with you there. But then we get more.
She would fit right in on the East German Olympic team. Let me just put it that way.
It's a mannish chin.
Put the chromosome in the bag, man.
But this is what I'm talking about. This is, I think, when you're saying overwritten, and I'm agreeing with you, this is what I see. It's just, we're on multiple pages here where it just keeps on going on. And yes, you have to build a story, but there's a very elegant way to do this. And a lot of this can be trimmed.
Also, it just kind of dawned on me, the transition between hundreds of years ago and the story's present, there's a degradation. So to kind of underscore like just how much the world has gone to crap.
That is an excellent point as well. So I do probably stand a little bit corrected. I might have to roll back my statement based off my impressions and notes. But we get again that reference image down at the bottom. Good action here. Joe's jumping into action, and now this is. And in fact, I'll kind of save that for my commentary on the story until we get to the as we're moving into issue 2, which is actually right now. But so
I like that last panel, like he's gonna punch somebody underwater.
So, and that's the next question is, so it ends on that note. So I'm a firm believer in that every issue should tell a complete story. Now you can leave with a cliffhanger, which they obviously do here. They leave with a cliffhanger,
but it's not a complete story.
But it's not a complete story. And I think there's
in fact, really, it's a single event.
Yes. With a lot of exposition. It's really heavy. I think there's probably an opportunity because they are doing cuts to different times and we start off with kind of the omnipresent narrator. I think there was maybe an opportunity to cut this a little bit different so that you get the context of the full story, even if it's, Simon and Joe Golem talking at the end of the issue about how they resolved the case. And then, so you get kind of the full story and then issues 2 and 3 expand upon that. There's hundreds of different ways you can do it, but it as a standalone issue, I don't think this worked as well as 2 and 3 do.
Yeah. I agree, though 2 and 3 are still a bit overwrought.
Yeah, they're better than 1 though. Citizen Ronan says, I don't really like the art. I don't like the way the blacks are done. It makes it look outline photos to me. I also don't like the muddy colors. I took that as that's all the sense of style to show you that New York's fallen apart. It's decay, it's decrepit, everything doesn't work, it's all dirty and filthy, and it's playing with, instead of using, at least this is how I took it, it's playing on the noir theme, only instead of using shadow, it's using decay. And that urban decadence is spreading as almost like a disease rather than what shadow does against light. That's how I took it. But I'm probably reading way more into that than I need to. And Zaid Comics has joined us. Always good to see Zaid. We're going to try to get Zaid here on the show here pretty soon to talk about his Man with No Strings issue 1 that's coming out. That's actually available right now on zaidcomics.com. But I did want to talk about something with regards to the storytelling difference. So Magnolia's stories, the two that we've talked about, Hellboy stories, they usually have a sense of urgency where you're getting Hellboy reacting to events, and he's just reactive. He doesn't have that direct investigative or direct active portion in the story. Like the events kind of happen around him.
Mm-hmm.
Here, Joe is directly involved in the events. It's his actions that are leading to the events that happen. And so that's a very pulpy thing, that the main character drives the story through their actions. Also, Hellboy stories, despite how grand they might be at times with their scope, as far as when you're thinking like the grand mythos of Hellboy, they still feel very intimate. They're still focused just around Hellboy. Despite this great pantheon that they've got built around it, it's still just a story about Hellboy. With Joe Golem, it's the opposite. Everything is inverted. It feels like the world is the story and Joe's in it. And you're getting his point of view. And I think that's a little bit different. And then how the plot is structured within that is a little bit different than what I've seen before in Hellboy. So I think it's a really good blend of Chris Golden and Magnolia's styles, but I think more of Golden is coming out in this plot than what I've traditionally seen from Magnolia.
Well, it's also interesting that he isn't even the preeminent figure in his own field, in his own story.
Right, he's kind of the apprentice to the Simon Church character, who acts as, again, that omnipresent narrator. And that's one of the things I want to talk about, because that intelligent narrator can be so easily messed up, and they can really flub it. And the way issue 3 ends when we get there tonight, I really like the way it ends. It just suggests that we just spent all this time with this man of action who's in control, but he's not in control. He's being manipulated. It was just a nice little turn. But as
now, do you mean the end? Because I read 1 through 5. Is that what you mean, or 1, 2, and 3?
Just 1, 2, and 3. Unfortunately, we probably won't. I mean, we're already at halfway through the show, and we're not even all the way through issue 2, so I will be speeding up a little bit. So issue 2 starts in the same fashion that issue 1 started, with the stacked panels, and you're going to see the same patterns again flow through here, because again, they do a really good job of being consistent. Here, I wanted to talk a little bit about this, and I know Citizen Ronan hates it, but I like how you've got like the brush strokes, and it's fading off onto the page for that main reference image with the inset. I think that works. I really like it, especially since it kind of accentuates the action as the curve, kind of what's flowing within the image. And then we go down, and then the eye line works because it kind of flows down into the action in panel 3 and then up into panel 4. And then you get the nice action shot in the panel 5. I liked that. I thought it was really well done.
I like the creature design.
The creature design is excellent. There's I think a little bit better of a shot coming up here. But then we get again, a nice page of action. We're opening the book with action. Nice little fight scene. I don't think it drags on too long, because we're boom, boom, boom. We're getting all those events. And then we come up and we're done. The creature swims away. We've got the rescued. He passes out, and we use the classic black panel to show that he's passed out and he's unconscious.
Now, to your point, this should have been the ending of the first book.
Exactly. That's where why would you not? If you move this to the end of issue 1 is half my critiques go away. And then if you open up issue 2 right here, not right here, because this is now we're back in Slovenia again, with a flashback, which makes sense. I mean, you could even just repeat him being passed out, and then he's having another reverie of whatever, the history of the Golem, which doesn't connect directly to this story. It connects to the next story, but it works. And then we get more of that, and again, we've got the red background for suggestive violence, but this again just drags on a little too long. It's like I think that's every sequence in this. I want to cut like at least a page out of, just so it flows a little bit better. But if you open up here for issue 2, I think it works a lot better, because then you get, okay, he passed out in issue 1, and then he's waking up in issue 2, and now your next segment of your story starts to open up and expound upon itself. But again, we get this heavy dialogue. It goes on for way too long.
Well, and it's not helped by you're looking at the ugliest woman you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, I believe Citizen Ronan called her. Where was that? That's a handsome woman, JP. So there you go.
She looks like Norm from Cheers.
Norm! But then we move into this. This is one of my favorite pages in the whole book, to be honest. I really like this. This is exquisite storytelling and setting tone and setting atmosphere without one line of dialogue. We're using just a little bit of lettering with the sound effects for the dogs barking. Nice and layered. I really like that turn back where he's looking back, and then you get the boat with the distance shot. Just really, really well done for atmospheric art and sequential. And then we're back into more dialogue. Again, I'm usually the one defending dialogue, and I want this cut. It meanders a little bit too much. I like the exchange in general. It's over, like you said, it's overwritten.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of noir is, to my mind, saying more with less, not word vomit.
Right. And I think this is a balanced page. We get a nice
sorry, panel 5. Oh, it got me again.
Okay.
That face.
Oh, it's just the smirk.
Yeah.
And again, we do the atmospheric stuff in this is great. I really dig it. He's putting on scuba gear. He's going to go into the water, and he jumps in, and almost immediately, boom, we get action. And he's going to fight. He's got to fight the monster. Again, the monster design, like you said, is great. It's kind of an aquatic, Lovecraftian, Innsmouth look type thing going on.
Yeah, but also like a 50s movie monster.
Yeah, kind of Creature of the Black
costume.
Lagoon type deal. We get some great action, and then there's moment again, atmosphere A+, and then the book ends on that note. Where he pops up and he finds the kids. I'm okay with this ending.
Yeah, because it's a twist.
Right. It's a twist. We're ending on a twist. We had our action beat. He got away from the monster and he's exploring. He goes up the ladder and boom, we get the twist. I like this. This works. I think if issue 1 ends with him getting knocked out and then you start and you kind of go through this story, I think now issue 1 stands alone. Issue 2 kind of stands alone. I think it works a whole lot better. And then we go to issue 3, which is here. And so issue 3, The Rat Catcher, The Strange Tale of Supernatural Adventure, Part 3. We move in, and again, exposition. No problems here. I like it. I really like panels 1 and 2. Like I think that's sharp, where we started on the teacup, and then we expand out, and then we expand out further. I like that progression. I thought that was really well done. Not a big fan of the riverboat shot, but And then we get more dialogue kind of between him and the kids that he finds, because the monster's not killing all the kids. And JP left. There's JP. The monster's not killing all the kids. He's thrown some of them in like this little air pocket beneath the water. And we get, again, more dialogue. But
but really nice shadow work, really nice lighting. I could have done without the multiple explanations of T.
Well, and it just, everything... I want to, this book is very consistent in how it is written. And I think that's to its benefit. But every page like this, they repeat so many things.
Yeah.
So many times. that I just want to take a red pen out and start cutting whole sentences in the dialogue. It's like, no, we've already known that. No, this has already been said. No, you referenced that previously. Like, it's just there. I think it could have been. It's a smartly written book. I think it could have been written a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
With an editor's help, I think this could have been cleaned up. It's I will give it high praise. I own it. I enjoy reading it. Sometimes I do think on this show we tend to be a little more critical on things than we probably should be. This may be one of those times, because otherwise I really enjoyed this series. And again, the atmospheric art, I think, is maybe what catches me. And like, one of the things that I really like
But
about
if you
this,
trim out some of the unnecessary dialogue, you create more room for more atmospheric art.
right, which is the selling point of this book. I understand Citizen Ronan doesn't like it. It's not everybody's bag. I think it really works. It kind of reads to me a little bit, like I said, like a Guy Davis book, where you really feel there's certain pages or certain panels on pages that really just jump out, like they feel like they just belong on that page. Like he brought them out, but they always existed. And we get sequences like this that are just absolutely fantastic as he's swimming through the submerged city. That just real simple stuff. And this is something that I'd have to go back and look at release dates, because I know like the Bande Dasane Carthago does this a lot, where they will show progression of somebody swimming through like a cave or underwater by inverting the image. So on the first one, we're going from left to right, and then on the next one, we're going from right to left. Well, it's really cute because it's also following the eye line. Right. So he's swimming at an angle. So he's going from top left to bottom right. But then the middle panel, he's going from top right to bottom left. And we've got a stairway. And then where do we end on the page? We're looking at a wall where something's been etched. It's really subtle stuff like that. Super smart, really, really well crafted, high marks all around. And then the same thing, we get the corridor that's drifting off away from us. And then we get the art, and we're starting to see that there's more to this mystery than what we've already know. The monster's not killing the kids, but now things are ripped out of paintings. Things are defaced. Art is defaced. And then we get this. I really like this. You get this shocked look up on top. You got the nice bottom with that reference image in the center. Happy all around. Again, excellent shadow work. Great. It's the atmosphere I can't say enough about. The shocking thing is we're 7 pages into book 3, and we haven't hit that massive exposition wall that we've had in issues 1 and 2. And at this point in issue 3, since I'm reading them consecutively, I'm going, where is it?
Yeah.
Because I'm almost waiting for it, that I'm going to run into this big chunk of dialogue. Our pacing's been great so far in issue 3. Atmosphere has been awesome. The action beats have been there. The suspense is there. But where's my dialogue? It's still not there. And I loved this too, where the monster rips the mask off. Like, just a nice little touch. We get this great beat at the bottom. He hits him with the spear gun. Great, good action. Just really, really solid action. And it keeps on going, and it's good action. And then we jump back to Slovenia.
Yeah. Which, I'm not going to lie, I read issues 1 through 5. I didn't really put it together exactly what, like, I just read it as being part of like a grander narrative that is resolved in future issues, or there's something about the backstory I just don't get.
Yeah, let's just focus on the first 3. I don't want to get into it. Mr. Sandberg has joined us. Greetings to Mr. Jason Sandberg. And so we get more of the Slovenia backstory with the Golem. The Golem, of course, was the creature that was standing behind Mr. Simon Church in the intro narration, setting up him as kind of the narrator of the story, or as that omnipresent force in Golem's life. And we get more of the Slovenia story that ties in really to what's the story that's in issues 4 and 5, that, to JP's point, is actually an extended arc that extends a little bit beyond those. But for the sake of this, we're kind of, it sucks because it's part of the book, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the first 3 issues. It's more of an ongoing arc. And again, nice art. I like the fire. They did a good job there. And then we kind of get to the end run of that, and then we're back to our fight, which is weird. It's like we stopped in the middle of the
Yeah.
fight, get a flashback, when every time before we had the flashback, it was always he was either sleeping and dreaming or knocked unconscious. But now in the middle of the fight, we just had that break, and now we're back to a fight that gets to be really fun. So we've got, this is the left-hand page, this is the right-hand page. I wanted to show them both together because this is a fantastic, in my opinion, a fantastic spread of action. The thing I don't like about this, I would have inverted the layering. So you've got on the left-hand side, panels 1 and 3 are over the top of panel 2. I would have inverted it on the next page and put panel 2 over the top of panels 1 and 3.
Okay. I think sorry, it took me a while. I started to go cross-eyed for a second.
Yeah, but I think that would add a little bit more to it. Just in concept, it's just, but I really like the action beat here because they do, and this is an old school, it probably predates it, but I always cite Savage Sword of Conan. Savage Sword of Conan always did this really well, that if you really want to accentuate action and you want to make it feel dynamic, all you do is invert the POV. So from the first instance, we've got it from, we're looking away from Joe, and then the spear goes through him, and we've kind of inverted the camera to the other side. Now we're seeing the spear go through the creature, and then we flip it all the way around, and now he's swimming away. And then we go from the creature's point of view, grabbing his fin, and then we flip back to Joe, kind of over Joe's shoulder to see the creature clawing its way up his body as they're swimming. And then we flip it back around to the other side and we see Joe slashing him. Like, it just, that's that quick angularity of changing that angle and where our point of view is, does a great job of really accentuating the action without having to do that dumbass 90s speed line shit.
Does it bother you at all that there isn't much of a change in terms of depth or perspective?
Not really, because they're underwater.
Okay.
I mean, you could maybe play with something where you don't typically use like your azimuth horizon. You know what I mean? Like, because everything is a kind of on the XY or the XZ. If you added a little bit of Y or like pitch or roll, I think that'd make it a little bit more interesting. Where you understand that they're in a 3D space and it's not, they're just, on the street.
Because one of the things I think is really cool is, and this is going to make me sound like a teenager that should probably have a psychiatric evaluation, but the blood cloud underwater, I'd like to be a little bit further away, like zoomed out a little bit.
Right, so you can kind of see it like pillowing out or billowing out.
Yeah.
But I really like these. This was my favorite 2 pages in the whole book. I really liked this action sequence. And there you go. There's your billowing blood as it just hangs in the water and slowly spreads.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and I love that panel 1. That panel 1 reminded me so much of Hunter. Remember when we reviewed Hunter?
Yeah.
It just has that air about it, with right down to the blood tracing the knife as he kind of pulls back, and the creature just floats. Really liked that. Can't say enough positive things about issue 3. Issue 3 is the highlight of these first 3, this first 3-part story. And then I liked this. We get some, like, a nice, again, excellent visual storytelling. Loved the art. Really happy with the colors. Even though it's a muted palette, I really think it works. And then we start wrapping up. We're starting to wrap up the conclusionary aspects of the story, but we're doing it a little bit quicker, I guess, than I expected, because again, after the heavy dialogue and heavy exposition of issues 1 and 2, I get to issue 3, and that's what I'm expecting to see.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing that here. So we get that. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong way. So we get that, and then we go to this, and he gets kind of patched up. He gets a kiss on the cheek, and he wishes her goodbye. And then he goes back and he's talking to Simon Church, kind of his leader, and he mentions that, or his kind of mentor, and he mentions, hey man, I've got I'm sorry, here he is. This is 22. 21 goes before 22, all this. So he goes back to their office, and he's talking to him, and he's like, man, every time I close my eyes or I try to lay down, I get these visions. And Simon reassures him a little bit, appreciates everything he's done. And then at the very end says, well, we'll have to do something about that. And he says he's going to get him some tea, but he puts something in it. And it's like he's in control. He's manipulating Joe. Joe's whole world is being manipulated by this guy. He's the puppet master. I really liked that twist. I liked that turn at the end of issue 3, that we've got a question that continues on. He's not just the Higgins to Joe's Magnum. He's doing a little bit more than that and nudging him along a path. I thought that was a positive.
Yeah, it's a little X-Files.
Yeah, probably based off of this. This came out in 2015, so maybe it's tropey. Maybe I'm being too complimentary for what it's accomplishing here.
Hey, I just said it was X-Files. If you took that as a dig, that's on you.
No, well, I think X-Files did manage to do some things. Granted, a lot of the stuff they had been done before famously was done in like Kolchak the Night Stalker. They just kind of repackaged it and did it in a little bit of a different, unique way. Maybe that's the case here, maybe not. I'm going to leave that up to everybody else's interpretations. But I did want to, since we do have a little bit of time, issues 4 and 5 contain that concludes the first volume of Joe Golem as those first 5 issues. First 3 again are the Rat Catcher, which we just went through. The last 2 are the Sunken Dead. You got anything you want to mention about those 2 is there any compare and contrast you can do between the story of the Sunken Dead versus the story of the Rat Catcher? Did you see any difference in the art styles? Was there any tone difference that you caught?
It continues the theme of there being let's say a villain that maybe isn't necessarily motivated by villainy and is only doing evil things, for some misguided but virtuous purpose. So the what is it, the Rat Catcher, he was trying to save the kids or something. And then in books 4 and 5, it's like there's a guy who collects, old texts the way the guy that Joe Golem is working for does, but he's doing it to try and resurrect the dead, and he ends up creating zombies. So, but he's doing it because he's trying to reconnect with his family that drowned when New York City was flooded. So it's like villainy, but not necessary, or
the misunderstood villain type trope.
Yeah. And then there's a bit of a rift between the guy that Joe Golem works for and the ugliest woman in New York. But yeah, other than that, no, the art's still, pretty top tier.
Gotcha. Well, with that being said, I think that's going to do it for Joe Golem. What's your overall impression? Is this a recommend, a high recommend, light recommend? What are your thoughts on that?
I'd say it's a light recommend. It's definitely one for art enjoyers, unless you didn't like what you saw here in terms of the art. I enjoyed it thoroughly for its pulpiness. But yeah, it's a light recommend.
I think I'm gonna put it as just a recommend. I recommend grabbing the omnibus for $40. I think it's a good story. As with most of the stuff that Magnolia has his fingers in, it's better than bad, and it's 9 times out of 10 way above average. And that's, I understand not saying much given the average state of most modern books, but I do think this is while not a standout, it's certainly something that's worth your time to check out. So coming up a little bit on the gutter, like I said, we're going to try to get Phil on here. I'd also like to, I want to try doing a panel show coming up, hopefully if not in March and April, talking a little bit about, influencing and best indie books of some renown. We'll be talking a little bit more to some people about that and seeing what we can do. But with that being said, JP, that's going to, I think, do it for the show. You got any last words?
Yeah, Chattanooga.
The Chattanooga Choo-Choo?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, with that being said, ladies and gents, thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful evening.
This is blood for blood and by the gallons. This is the old days, man, the bad days, the all or nothing days. They're back. There's no choices left.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.